Worship was so powerful. The words that were used in this song, I hope you guys were listening to those words, because those are the words for the season that we came out of, for the season that we're going in. And personally, if I'm just going to speak for myself, those words were hitting me myself, because I will explain to you where I am, up and down in my emotions and in my mind, but God always tends to speak. But I really want you to understand, for myself, I feel like I will be a connection to whomever feels the same way in their situation and what they're going through. And let me be honest, frank, and just straight up with you. I'm scared. I'm scared. I'm worried. I'm afraid. The best way I could describe it is that I'm in a boat. It's a small boat, and this boat is in the ocean. And that alone is a little scary for me, because I don't really do boats or anything. And my next thing would be, even though that's scary, that's not the thing that worries me or scares me the most. What scares me the most is that I feel that I'm in this boat, in this ocean, and there is no land in sight. Nothing. No land. 360. If I look around, there's no land. That's the part that terrifies me the most, because I don't know which way to go to get back to where I need to get back to. If I go this way, am I leaving the land that was? If I go that way, is the land over here? I have no idea, and it paralyzes me, it freaks me out, and it makes me nervous, it makes me scared and concerned, and I'm worried. I don't know how many of you are feeling like that, but it's been a battle this season. And at that time, I'm kind of feeling like, God, where are you? I mean, in this situation, I'm asking, I'm calling, I hear nothing. I hear no direction. Go this way or go that way. My problem with that is, when I read this, I'm thinking about, okay, we're children of God. Those who have a relationship with Christ, you always hear these promises that, well, I will guide you. I will take you there. I will show you the way. Yet I'm calling you, God, and I don't hear you. And it gets frustrating because I see no land in sight. I don't know how many of you felt that way for 2020. And some of you, even subconsciously, those may know, like, it's just a turn of the year. Things may still be the same, but still you switch from 2020 to 2021, and you just hope there will be some goodness, but then there's just more and more stuff that goes on. Uncertainty, uncharted territory. What should I do? People uncertain about their jobs, people having a hard time homeschooling kids, people trying to figure out how to stay connected, people trying to figure out their future, plans that were destroyed. You are thrown into the middle of this ocean in the boat. There is no land in sight. And these are the emotions that can happen trying to just survive, let alone living towards the horizon that God is calling us to. And so these are the things that kill me in this time. And as I'm calling out, God answers me. God answers me in a way that opens my eyes, and I want to talk about how God answered me in the middle of this ocean where I see nothing, I see no land, I see nothing that can tell me where to go, and I'm all alone in this small boat. This ocean represents what we can't control. The waves you can't control. You can't kind of read your way to trying to figure it out. You can't YouTube it. You can't Google, how do I control the ocean? How do I go strategize these waves? You've never been out here before. The ocean could be vicious. Let alone the ocean, the weather itself could go crazy, and you have no control over that. So I'm praying, asking, and this is how God answers me. And that's what this message will be about. This message is called The Voyage. And the voyage is most of the time, it has to do with a journey on the sea, a journey in the ocean, that uncontrollable ocean, that uncertainty during that time. And so I'm asking God to guide me. And it made me think about what is going on within inside of me. So when you think about a voyage, another example of a voyage, a journey, you can think about a movie. A movie takes you on a journey. But how I want to connect this voyage that we're on and the movie, yes, a movie is, adventurous. It has ups and downs and the plot and the story. That's cool. Yes, a journey can take you through things and situations and strategizing, like a movie could do the same thing. But what I want to connect between a movie and a voyage is the question. You see, when people do movies or stories, there's this underlining core question that is trying to be answered. Like these characters have this internal conflict that they're trying to answer a question. So, for example, if you saw the movie The Black Panther, that question, that underlining question was, am I my brother's keeper? Another movie that just came out last year called Soul is starring Jamie Foxx, and Pixar made it. And that underlining question in that movie, Soul, is, does my life have meaning? Another movie, Creed, one of my favorite, the spinoff from the Rocky movies, now it's Creed. That underlining question is, am I a mistake? Now, with that character, Apollo Creed, who died, he was a legendary boxer in that movie. He ended up cheating on his wife with another woman. That woman got pregnant, gave birth to a son, and that son is the star of this movie. And he's asking, am I a mistake? Another movie, Wonder Woman, not that last Wonder Woman that just came out. I'm talking about 2017 Wonder Woman, because I really don't know what that was. But Wonder Woman, 2017, that movie, the underlining question was, are humans worthy of being saved? Another one, Moana. This is a perfect example for a voyage. Moana's in a boat, just like I described, going out into uncharted territory. And the underlining question for Moana is, who am I? Last example, a romantic comedy called Hitch featuring Will Smith. And the underlining question is, am I worthy of being loved? Do these things sound familiar to you? Some of them may trigger something within you because those are those questions. When I say core, when I say these questions hit the core, when I say those questions, it triggers something in you because you might be dealing with it even if you don't know you are dealing with it. These things hit to the core. These questions are powerful. These questions do something to you. And these questions in these movies, the whole movie is structured around trying to either answer the question or discover there is even a question. Like, they structure the whole story around this question. And so that goes the same for this voyage. There's a question that in this voyage that I'm in, and maybe you too, there's this underlying question that's happening that is almost like the force that drives me to view things a certain way, think a certain way, act a certain way. It puts me on a script that is made for that question. It puts me into the world of the question. And so I want to talk about that. I want to talk about the power of this question. Listen to the question. Questions are powerful because how it's defined is this. A question is a sentence worded in a way that elicits information. It obtains some type of information, right? Now think about it. When I read this definition of this question, of what question means, I heard a sentence worded, structured in a way to obtain information. A sentence worded or structured in a certain way. And what hit me was that, wait, the question that fuels us, that fuels these movies, can be a sentence, a prison sentence that can trap us within the question to either take something from us, extract something from us, if we let this question imprison us into this sentence, this jail sentence, this prison sentence. So I want to talk about the question, the underlying question in my personal journey. If I'm going to be vulnerable, if I'm going to talk about this boat that I'm in, this current time in my life where I see no land, I want to talk about this question that is within me. And I'm going to ask Pastor Art if he can come up. I'd like him to open it up and read the question, this underlying question that I feel is within my journey that I had to discover to see, why am I feeling this way? Why am I acting this way? Why am I moving this way? And so I wanted, PA, if you can read the question into the microphone so that people could hear that same way like the movies. This is the Voyage. This is my underlying question.
The question is, will God save me?
Thank you, PA. I'll take this. I wanted PA to come up and read that because sometimes we have to hear the question outside of ourselves. We're so into it. And even hearing him say that is just a reminder of what God's doing to me. And I look at this, I see this thing, I see an underlying question. Will God save me? So again, like I said, the Black Panther, that question was, am I my brother's keeper? Moana, who am I? Right? All these questions. Creed, am I a mistake? Right now in my voyage that I'm discussing with you, will God save me? So on this voyage, God helped me see that was my underlying question. But what he wanted to do, he answered this question. But he answered it with his own underlying question. And so, of course, I'm gonna tell you what the question is that he gave me, but I'm gonna wait a little bit so that I can show you how he answered it. And I know a bunch of you are like, come on, Jack, are you serious? Like, yo, just give me it, like right now. And I'm like, nah, bruh. Listen, he made me go through this process to get to this. You're going to have the same treatment. You're not getting that shortcut, all right? So God offers this answer. On this voyage, like I said, I'm in this place where the boat, no land. And one thing I thought about was what would happen if I saw Jesus walking on the water, just walking on the water. First of all, while I'm at that time, I'm like, oh, hey, hold up, Jesus, hello? Been praying to you this whole time. I'm having trouble over here. Can you come help me out? Which way are you going? Because I need to know which way to go. So I'll be screaming out to him. But this reminds me of in the Word, what God showed me. Something in the Word, in this same scenario that I'm in, that I described to you, that you might be in that same scenario too. He taught me something that hit me hard for this season in my life. So I got the opportunity a couple years ago. Someone asked me to speak at a conference, and the topic that they gave me was get out of the boat. Man, was I so excited to hear that topic because I get to talk about how Jesus walked on water, and I get to talk about how Peter got out of the boat to walk on water to go to him. I love that story. That situation that happened is so powerful. And I'm like, man, I already got things that I'm going to talk about at this conference. Like, I already know what I'm going to do. So come, 2 weeks before the conference, I'm like, right, let's dabble into the things I've already learned. Let's just, review, because I'm about to show them what God showed me, right? It wasn't until 2 o'clock in the morning that day of the conference was when God finally showed me something, because I thought I had it. I thought I understood it. I thought, I got this story down packed, whatever, let's go. And he changes everything and changes my perspective about this story. So I want you guys to turn to Matthew 14, verse 22. And when this is the account of when Jesus walked on water. He met the disciples in the boat. Peter sees him, asks him to, take me out of the boat. Tell me to come to you. He walks on water. He gets to Jesus. He then starts falling into the water. Jesus picks him up and kind of says, hey, why did you doubt? So I'm going to read this account so that we can get a kind of full understanding of what happened here. And then I'm going to show you what God showed me that leads up to this question within this envelope. So Matthew 14, verse 22, we're going to start there. Immediately, he made the disciples get into the boat and go before him to the other side, while he dismissed the crowds. And after he had dismissed the crowds, because he was preaching in front of people, he went up on the mountain by himself to pray. When evening came, he was there alone. But the boat, by this time, was a long way from the land, beaten by the waves, for the wind was against them. And in the fourth watch of the night, he came to them, walking on the sea. This is Jesus. But when the disciples saw him walking on the sea, they were terrified and said, "It's a ghost!" And they cried out in fear. But immediately Jesus spoke to them, saying, "Take heart, it is I. Don't be afraid." And Peter answered him, "Lord, if that's you, command me to come to you on the water." And he said, "Come." So Peter got out of the boat, walked on the water, and came to Jesus. But when he saw the wind, he was afraid. And beginning to sink, he cried out, "Lord, save me." Jesus immediately reached out his hand and took hold of him, saying to him, "Oh, you of little faith, why did you doubt?" And when they got into the boat, the wind ceased, and those in the boat worshiped him, saying, "Truly, you are the Son of God." There is not a time where I can read that and I don't get goosebumps on my body. Like, this is crazy. First of all, Jesus walks on water. That is ridiculous. He walks on water during a time where they're struggling with the boat. The storm is crazy. They can't handle it, but yet Jesus is just walking on water. Okay. Then Peter, crazy faith, says, "Hey, if it's you, tell me to come." Dude gets out the boat and goes to him. Oh my goodness, this stuff gets me every time. So what I'm going to do in this situation is I'm going to take Peter out of the story and I'm going to put me in the story, replacing Peter. And everything that I know now, I'm taking with me in this scenario. So I already know what happened with Peter. Now I'm putting this story, and I already know what's going to happen, what's going on. I want to see how would I respond if I was in this situation. So let's think about it. I'm in the boat with the other disciples. Number one, this is what I said in the conference. I made it clear. I already know what happened. I'm not going to be the one who stayed in the boat. I don't want it to be read that, and Jag got scared because he didn't want to get out of the boat. We already know that's not happening. I'm getting out the boat, no questions asked. We need to get out this boat. So, next thing, I'm looking at the water. I see Jesus. He says, come. And now I'm about to step out of the boat. Now I'm about to lift my leg up and get in there. And the first thing I think about is I'm scared. I'm afraid. And then right there, God is like, listen, why? Why are you afraid? What's going on? And I'm thinking to myself, I'm afraid because, number one, do I have enough faith built up in me to do what Peter did? Because honestly, that kind of scares me that he had so much faith to just do that. So do I have the right amount of level of faith to step out of this boat and walk on the water? I'm scared right now because I don't want to go in and just whoop, fall right down. That would kill me. So I want to know, wait, do I have enough faith to step out on this boat? Step out of the boat. And then the second thing that I'm afraid of is that even if I get in this water and have enough faith, and maybe I don't have enough faith, and Jesus is gracious enough to keep me going, will I fail like Peter did? And then I had to ask the question, wait, Jesus, hold on. This is, as Jesus is making me analyze and introspection, and he's making me see, I ask him, hold on, did Peter fail? Jesus, did Peter fail? And so I asked Jesus that, and I kind of visualized him looking at me like with this strange look like, what? Are you seriously asking me that? I get this feeling that it's almost like, let's say I would ask you, hey, can you check how much I weigh using this ruler? Wait, what? That doesn't even make sense. They don't go together. Like, that's, like, what are you saying, Jag? And so I'm asking Jesus, did Peter fail? And he's looking at me like, Jag, that's not how I work. Like, that's not how I do things. Like, you're off. You're in a question, and that question has imprisoned you. And you're seeing things within the perspective of a question, and I don't even work that way, Jag. What are you talking about? And so, you know what, Jag? I'll answer your question, but I want you to understand that that's not how I work. Totally off. And so he answers the question for me, and it hits me to the core. Again, I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it. It hits me to the core. And when he answers the question for me, I now see Peter, and I say this, and I want you to hear me clearly. This is what I say. I'm glad Peter fell in the water. I'm going to say it again. I'm glad Peter fell in the water. I think it was the best thing that Peter fell in the water. And let me explain why. You're probably thinking like, okay, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? You're talking about Peter who mustered up the faith to ask Jesus, tell me to come, who mustered up the faith to get out the boat, who walked on water and who connected with God. You're telling me you're glad he fell? Yes, I'm glad Peter fell in the water. And this is why I'm glad that Peter fell in the water. Jesus said, Jag, Peter didn't fail. Peter made progress. And I'm like, wait, what? And it blew my mind because, listen, if our goal is to get out the boat, walk on water, and connect with your loving Father, with Jesus, you're wrong. And I know you guys are like, what do you mean I'm wrong? This dude, he went through all of that to get to the lover of his soul. What do you mean our perspective is wrong if we want to get out the boat, walk on the water, and connect with Jesus? Yes, your perspective is wrong. And I'm going to tell you why. This is what he told me. The reason why it's off is because what will happen is you'll be in a boat, and unless you know for sure you can walk on the water perfectly, you might not get out the boat. Unless you know, if there's certainty that would tell me, listen, if I'm going to walk this water, is the storm going to stop? Is things going to be okay? Unless I know for sure, I'm not getting out the boat. That's why the goal of getting out the boat, walking on water, and connecting to Jesus is not the goal, because it will paralyze you if you don't have certainty on those elements in between. Those deciding factors in between you connecting with Jesus, walking out of faith. If you don't have certainty, you'll get paralyzed, just like I got scared. But when Jesus said to me, Peter did not fail, Peter made progress. Because the goal for Peter was not about walking on water perfectly. The goal was about seeing Jesus in a new light. Seeing Jesus in a new way. Discovering Jesus in a new way. That's what Jesus has been about this whole time with his disciples. It's been about, let me show you in new ways. Discovering me is unending. I need to show you so you can grow, you can grow, you can grow. So it doesn't matter whether you fall in the water, whether you're like sinking, whether you walk perfectly with the water, or it doesn't matter if you stayed in the boat. It's about seeing Jesus in a new light. That's the goal. So no, Peter didn't fail. Peter made progress. And what God showed me is like, wow, I was looking at it the wrong way. I've been paralyzed by trying to avoid failure. And the problem with that, Jesus is like, yeah, this is why I don't want you to make the goal walking this road perfectly. Our season, our preaching theme is roadway. It's not about walking this roadway perfectly. It's not about living on the horizon perfectly. It's not about being on this boat and knowing exactly where to go. That's not what it's about. What it's about is seeing Jesus in a new light. So I'm in this boat. I just need to choose, okay, I'm going to wait till you tell me which way to go, but I'm going to go this way. It's not about, oh, Jag, you're going the wrong way. It's about, okay, you're looking to see me in a new light. You don't know where to go. You don't know what's happening. You don't know what's going to be done. But you're just looking to see me in a new light. There is something that happened a long time ago between Abraham where God said, listen, I want you, the son that I blessed you with, you couldn't have kids. I blessed you with a son. I want you to take him on and sacrifice him for me. I'm sure he probably was trying to figure out answers like, is this really going to happen? Is this what's going to go on? But no, this guy kept pushing forward. He kept pushing. He saw no land. He just saw something that terrified him, but he kept pushing anyway. And that's what God is calling us to. It's not about having the decision. They're like, here's the answer. You're going to go this way. Sometimes God is calling us to move when we don't know, when we don't have a clear answer for him. He wants to use that moment to see, well, will you believe in me anyway? Even though I don't give you the direction, Jag, where's the land? Will you have faith in me anyway? Will you let this situation contradict me? Will you take it as a contradiction, Jag? So listen to this. Here's what God is showing me. When we get into situations where our circumstance, it just doesn't look like what God has said for us in here, right? We're royal children. Anything we ask for, he'll give us and all that stuff. Well, that's not true. Anything he asks for, but anything within his name, he'll bless us, all that stuff, wisdom and the direction. He's for you, and all that stuff. And then you get in a situation like I described and you hear nothing. You get frustrated. And what we do is like, where are you? Where's the answer? What's going on? The reason I'm calling out to you is because you said something. You said this, and that. look at this situation. It's not showing what you said. And basically, we're saying he's contradicting himself. And so that is me with this in my core. But if I were to change my core to something else, I would then, instead of looking at God and saying, yo, this situation is, you're contradicting yourself, I would then switch and say, wait, hold on. No, I'm going to talk to my situation. Yo, you don't look like what God has promised. You don't look like what he showed me about myself. You don't look like what he's going to do in my life. So you know what? God, change whatever in me because this circumstance is not matching what you promised. And I know you're not a liar. This situation is not my truth. You're the truth. So you switch the blame to nah. This is not the truth. Father, work in me whatever needs to happen because I'm not believing what my circumstances are saying. You switch it from trying to blame God to praying in your situation truth, to making his truth manifest in your life. To make his truth manifest in your life means I'm going to make sure this truth comes alive within inside of me. I'm going to make sure this truth comes alive within inside of my situation. So let's talk about this road. This roadway, living on the horizon, we switching our mindset from trying to call God and say he's contradicting himself. And then we look at the road, right? Sometimes we have a situation where it's unstable. It's rocky. And the water is perfect for that. In the water, all you see is the horizon and no land. That is a perfect scenario of unstable. I have no idea what's going to happen. The boat could be rocking or whatever. And here's what God shows me. There is a difference between the stability of the road and the stability of God in your life. Those are two different things, yet we try to connect the two. The lack of stability of the road, the journey that we have to go on, doesn't say that God holding you, he's unstable. And we tend to view that and connect the two. No, that can be unstable all at once, but God will forever be strong holding you regardless of how unstable the road is, regardless of the waves, regardless of how crazy it is. God is always stable. God always has us. He always holds us in his hands. And so that's the mindset we need to switch to. So again, when I think about God journeying me in the core of my question, this is what he finally gives me. And I'm going to ask Pastor R if he could come up. When I think about did Peter fail? We talked about that. We talked about being paralyzed by failure. We talked about all these different things. And God is saying, listen, I want you to change the underlying question for your voyage living towards the horizon. If you could get the microphone out as well so they can hear it.
The question is getting to know God worth failing?
Thanks, Peter. Is getting to know God worth failing? Is getting to see him in a new light worth so-called failing? Jag, you going on this journey, you going on this road, you may fall in the water, you may do a mistake, you may so-called fail. Is that worth it enough so you can see God in a new light? Is he worth it? And so now, changing it from will God save me to is he worth it to even possibly fail? In this journey that I'm going through, I even had to talk to Tigress, my wife, about it. And I had to say, listen, God is showing me that if I make mistakes, cool, whatever, I make mistakes. If I fail something, cool, whatever, I fail, whatever, just keep it moving. But what got me is if I fail and it affects my family, if I fail and it affects my wife, that's what was holding me. That was when I was shifting the underlying question, will God save me? That's when it was holding me inside the boat, because I'm not trying to do it if it's going to hurt my family. So with that being said, unless I know for sure I'm going to walk on this water perfectly, I'm not going. But then God shows me all that we talked about, changes the underlying question. And I had to tell my wife, I had to tell Tigers, listen, I need to learn to let that go. I need to look at these things that God is not powerless where he can't adjust our lives or move us in a direction or move us in a way to go or counteract those failures. And let me tell you something that happened last week preparing for this message. I want to tell you what he showed me. And this happened to me. So Bella, me and Tiff, we work at home. And Bella wakes up, and I'm getting her ready to go and drop her off. So what I do is I get her ready, I take her to the car, I put her inside the car seat, buckle her in, and everything. It's like a process, right? Buckle her in, she's set to go, and then boom. Bang! Forgot my wallet upstairs. So I'm like, she's already buckled in. All right, let me call Tigress on the phone and ask her to throw my wallet down, because I'm gonna stand at the door. She's upstairs, and hey, just throw it down. I'm gonna catch it, and then I could go and get out of here, right? So I'm walking, and I get to the door. I'm like, all right, throw it down. She throws it, but she kind of overthrows it, and it hits the top of the door frame, right? And I'm like, come on, are you serious? And we laugh about it. She's like, my bad. I'm like, we laugh about it. I'm like, whatever. So I get back in the car. And as I'm just driving off, I see in my eye a mail lady delivering mail to the house next door. She puts the mail in, turns around, walks, and one of the envelopes in her bag that she still has to deliver drops out and falls to the floor. And I'm like, I put the window down. I'm like, hey, excuse me, miss, you dropped an envelope. You dropped the envelope on the floor. She looks back, she sees it, and she's like, oh, thank you. And so I don't think any other time I probably would not have noticed this. And I'm telling you why before I wouldn't have noticed this unless Tigress told me about this one story. She was watching a television show, and in this show, this one guy is trying to help bring back an envelope that was lost. So there were a bunch of envelopes lost, and he was trying to get them all back to the right place. And one of them was left, and some people are like asking, yo, why are you going like overboard just to get one envelope? Like you're good. And he's saying to them, like, you don't know what's in here for the other person. You don't know how important it might be for them. And so he's pushing, even though people were saying some stuff, and he finally figures out where this last envelope goes to. He gets to the place, he gives it to the lady, and the lady opens it and reads it and starts crying. And she explains that this is a letter, the last letter from my husband who died in war. And when Tiff told me that story, I'm like, oh my goodness, you never know. That just hit my heart. You just never know what the message would be for someone. So back to my experience with the mail lady, you never know what that could have been, what that could have been for, what someone might needed that message delivered. Now check this out. What if I got hung up on the failures, on the mistakes? Man, I forgot my wallet, man. I stay doing this. I'm so forgetful. This is so annoying, man. How can I do this? Like, I'm always mixing things up. Like, can't I just have a good day, a good start of the morning? And if I would have dwelled on that 2 seconds, 10 seconds longer, I would have missed that lady. Had I been like, Tiff, can you throw me down my wallet? And we missed it. I'm like, Yeah, I stay missing stuff. Like I feel off today. I feel like I'm just like failing at little things. Like what's going on? I don't know, babe. Like, please pray for me, because I don't know what's going on. 5 seconds, 10 seconds, would have just missed her. But it was perfectly aligned for me to see her at the right moment to tell her, hey, you dropped something that somebody may need. God allowed this so-called failure to be timed in a perfect way for someone to get a message that they needed. And who knows, it would have impacted their life, just like that story of the lady crying, because that was the last letter from her husband. Who knows what it could be? But God is doing something much bigger than your failures and the mistakes that you're so afraid to make before you even get out the boat. He's calling you to move because you have no idea the timing in which he's using these failures, these mistakes. He's calling us to move and come out the boat. And what might these things be? Let me tell you an example of how God is using things in a big way, in a big picture way. Last year, I read this book by Matthew McConaughey. He's the famous actor, did great movies, Interstellar. He just did some romance comedy. He was known for that. He had a lot of great movies. I'm forgetting one where he was a lawyer. Oh, man, it was yes. I mean, listen, it was a bunch of great movies. He's a great actor. So he wrote a memoir. It's, a biography, right? Autobiography kind of thing. But he writes this memoir, and I'm reading it. It's a good book, had some weird moments, but it was a good book. And one thing hit me to the core, and this has to do with how God uses things for a bigger picture, even mistakes or whatever. So he's at a point in his life, listen, his career, he's on like cloud 9. He's killing it, but yet he's like bummed out. I would say he was like depressed or whatever. It's just like, man, like I feel terrible about myself. I feel like I got these evil thoughts, like something going wrong with my spirit. He just felt bad about all these things. And so he decided to go meet this person, this Christian. They called him Brother Christian. I don't know if his name was Christian, but they just called him Brother Christian. And he went to him to get some guidance, to just like, I just need some help. I'm at a lost place in my life. I'm in a boat with like nothing. So he gets to this place, and then they're talking and walking for miles, right? He's talking. Matthew McConaughey is just spilling out everything. He's like releasing all his dark thoughts, his so-called demons. He's just releasing and confessing it all and feeling bad about himself for 4 hours. 4 hours straight, he's confessing it all. And Brother Christian says nothing during those 4 hours. Absolutely nothing. He's breaking down everything he's talking about and like all these inner demons. And they get back to the chapel where they started off their journey. They sit down, still, nothing, just quiet. And Matthew McConaughey looks up at Brother Christian, and in my head, as I'm reading this, I'm like, my man, listen, Brother Christian, you repping the Christians right now. He just spilled out his guts, pretty much. He spilled out everything. I need you to come through with the come through and give some dope advice, some guidance, because this is a moment right now, right? And like what you say will determine almost the course of my dude's life and how he views like God, Christianity, whatever, right? Followers of Christ, right? So he sits there, he looks, and I'm like, all right, what are you about to drop and say to him? He looks at, Matthew McConaughey looks at him, and he says, almost in a whisper, Brother Christian says this, me too. Me too. That blew me away, because who would have thought something like that would free Matthew McConaughey from all those inner things that he was dealing with. All he had to hear was, I'm not alone in this journey. And so when I hear him say, me too, I'm visualizing in my journey in the voyage, in this boat, I'm visualizing people popping up in their boat, seeing that, oh my goodness, I'm not even alone here. Because I was so trapped in this question, God was able to show me, no, there's bigger picture stuff. You're not alone. And God is using our failures, mistakes, whatever you want to label it, these weird labels, God is using it to say, listen, I'm using these moments in your life to be able to connect with somebody else for you to say, me too. Because sometimes that's all they need to hear. Sometimes the words and the wise sayings or God has a plan in your life and you just got to hang in there. All those things, sometimes they don't want to hear that. But sometimes God, the Holy Spirit gives us words of wisdom based off of our experiences and not us dwelling on our mistakes. Sometimes he uses the moment like that to be able to just have to say, me too. Which sets somebody free. So when you think about this journey, this voyage, this living towards the horizon, there's going to be these moments. But don't let failure paralyze you. Don't allow your circumstance to be the one. Like when we think about God and all the promises that he has for us and we want to hold on to those promises, we want to live by those promises, don't wait for your circumstances to promise it for you. Hold on to his promises. Father, I'm asking, Lord God, for whomever this is for, I'm asking that you would touch the heart of the person sitting there right now. I'm asking that you help them discover the underlying question in their life and not to be afraid to discover those things, but to be willing to hand it over like you did with me and for you to give truth instead. I'm asking that you will break them free from the fear of failure. I'm asking that you will break them free where they are right now from being paralyzed to take on the journey, to take on faith, to be scared of the water. I'm asking that you would help them jump out. And regardless if they fall in the water or not, to know that my life, my meaning, the reason I'm doing this is just to see you in a new way. And that failure has no hold on me. Mistakes have no hold on me. Falling in the water has no hold on me. What I'm firmly in is in the hands of God. And I'm asking that you would touch them right now. Listen to me. If this touched you, if you're feeling something and you don't have a relationship with Christ and you want to get to know and see him in a new way, see him in a new light, right now I'm asking that you let it go. Let it go and ask him like, Lord, say this with me. Father, be the Lord of my life. Be the lover of my soul. Be the one that I hold on to. I'm tired. I don't want to try to figure it out no more. Be the one that guides my life. I want you to say that in your heart. Say that in your mind and soul. And for those who feel like they need to, I need to get back on track, say that in your heart and mind, soul too, because I need it too. Every level of my life, I needed it too. And listen to me, if you said those prayers, I want you to message our Facebook account, Chestnut Street Community Church, and let us know. I'm telling you, our leaders are going to come and reach out to you because we want to let you know, me too. I want you to message us on YouTube even. If you felt that and prayed that too, we want to reach out to you and say, hey, me too. Let's go on this together. Lord, I love you. Guys, thank you for your time. And listen, let's live towards the horizon. Take on this journey and don't allow failure to paralyze you.